It was supposed to be a perfectly normal morning. The keepers walked in, coffee in hand, ready for another routine day. But the moment they stepped inside that gorilla house, everything changed. What they saw sitting quietly in the straw stopped every single one of them dead in their tracks. And no matter how many years they had worked with these animals, nothing could have ever prepared them for this. Gorillas and the conservation program. Gorillas are one of the most powerful and gentle creatures on Earth. People admire their strong bodies, expressive faces, and remarkable intelligence. In fact, gorillas share about 97.7% of their DNA with humans, making them one of our closest living relatives in the entire animal kingdom. But despite how much people love these animals, Western lowland gorillas are sadly still critically endangered. Habitat destruction, disease outbreaks, and poaching have pushed their wild numbers way down over the last few decades. That is why zoos around the world support special conservation programs to help the gorilla population grow again. And one of the most important of these programs is called the European Endangered Species Program, or EEP for short. It was started back in 1987 and has been carefully managed ever since by the team at Frankfurt Zoo in Germany. Today, the EEP is one of the oldest and most intensively managed animal breeding programs in all of Europe. Its entire goal is to protect the western lowland gorilla, a species that has lost more than 60% of its wild population in just the last 20 to 25 years alone. Every single birth in this program matters, every single one. Meet Njella, her background and pregnancy. The expectant mother's name was Njella. She was a 20-year-old western lowland gorilla, and she was no stranger to Burger Zoo. She had actually been born there herself, back on May 9, 1993, making her a true Burger's baby who had grown up into one of the zoo's most beloved adult gorillas. Her mother Nandiki and her father Gorgo had raised her right there in the same troop she still lived in. She was parent-reared, meaning she had never been hand-raised by humans, which is considered the gold standard for gorilla development. Njella was the perfect candidate for the breeding program. She had already given birth to 3 healthy babies in her life, Nyanda, Nika, and Washi, and had raised every single one of them successfully on her own. 2 of her grown daughters still lived in the same family troop with her. Her genes were strong, and more importantly, she had proven over and over again that she knew exactly how to take care of a baby gorilla. The father of the new baby was a big silverback named Bowie. He was 23 years old and the patriarch of the entire family group. In gorilla society, the silverback is the dominant adult male. He leads the troop, settles fights, and protects the young from any danger. He gets his name from the distinctive silvery gray fur that grows across his back once he reaches full maturity, usually around age 13. Bowie was calm, confident, and exactly the kind of steady leader a gorilla family needs. When the team at Burger Zoo learned that Njella was pregnant, they were over the moon with excitement. Based on everything the vets could observe and measure, they estimated she would give birth sometime in the summer of 2013, around July or August. The staff got everything ready. Soft straw bedding, a quiet corner for privacy, and her family nearby to keep her comfortable and at ease. They watched her closely, making sure she was eating well, resting comfortably, and that her stress levels stayed low. Everything looked perfectly normal. Nobody had any reason to think otherwise. But what was growing inside Njella was about to shock every single one of them. The night of the birth and the morning discovery. On Wednesday evening, June 12, 2013, the zoo closed for the night just like any other day. The gorillas settled into their indoor enclosure. The keepers locked the doors, went home, and the building grew quiet and still. And somewhere during that long, dark summer night, Njella went into labor. All by herself, with no cameras rolling and no one around to help, she did what she had done 3 times before in her life. Whatever happened next happened completely in private. The next morning was Thursday, June 13, 2013. The keepers arrived for work ready to start their daily routine. One of the first to reach the gorilla house was Wilco Limpers, the head keeper of the great apes at Burger Zoo. He walked in expecting a perfectly normal day, but almost immediately something stopped him in his tracks. There was Nengela, sitting peacefully in the soft straw of her enclosure, holding a tiny, almost hairless newborn in her arms. The baby was already cleaned up and completely calm. Angela was licking it gently and cradling it close to her chest. Wilco realized right away what he was seeing. The birth had come weeks earlier than expected, but here was the baby, perfectly healthy and safe. He quickly grabbed his camera, because moments like this are incredibly rare and worth capturing. So he stood there quietly, watching one of the most experienced mothers in the troop do what she had already done 3 times before. In his mind, everything was clear. She had gone into early labor overnight. Everything had gone smoothly, and now she was calmly bonding with a healthy newborn. Everything was going perfectly. And then something happened that none of them had even imagined was possible. The twin reveal and the team's reaction. As Wilco was still filming, Angela suddenly reached down into the straw bedding right next to her. She moved deliberately, almost casually, like she knew exactly what she was doing. And when her hand came back up, she was holding another baby gorilla. Wilco froze completely. He could not believe his own eyes. In his own words, he later told reporters, "I was watching Angela lick her baby clean, and suddenly she grabbed something from within the straw bedding. Another baby gorilla. I really did not know what I saw." He was absolutely stunned. The whole team was stunned. Because gorilla twins are not just rare, they are extraordinarily rare. In the last 50 years, across all of Europe's zoos combined, there had only been about 10 gorilla twin births in total. That works out to roughly once or twice every 10 years. Think about that for a second. Humans, who usually have just one baby at a time, actually have twins more often than gorillas do. Scientists believe the reason comes down to survival. In the wild, a mother gorilla has to carry her baby everywhere she goes, feed it, and protect it completely on her own. Gorilla mothers do not share parenting duties with anyone else in the troop, not even the father. If she had 2 babies at once, there is simply no realistic way she could carry, nurse, and look after both of them while keeping up with the rest of the group. So over millions of years, evolution made twins extremely rare because in nature, having 2 often means losing one. And yet here was Angela, holding 2. A baby boy and a baby girl, both alive, both breathing, both nestled up against their mother like it was the most natural thing in the world. The zoo had not seen any signs of twins during the pregnancy whatsoever. No ultrasound had shown 2 separate babies. Nothing in Angela's behavior had suggested she was carrying more than one. Looking back, the early delivery was probably the one real hint. Carrying 2 babies puts more stress on the mother's body, so going into labor a little early makes sense. But at the time, nobody had any reason to suspect anything other than a normal single birth. For a few long minutes, the keepers just stood there, trying to process what their eyes were actually showing them. Wilco later summed it up perfectly for the Dutch media. "In gorilla world, twins are very rare," he said. "In the last 50 years, there have only been 10 births in zoos, so it's very rare." It was a once-in-a-decade moment, and it had happened right there at Burger Zoo. The big concern, can she handle both? Twin gorillas are amazing news, but they also come with a lot of risk. And the moment the initial shock started to wear off, the concerns began rolling in fast. The main problem is physical. A mother gorilla has 2 arms, and she needs at least one of them free at all times so she can walk on her knuckles and move around. That means carrying, feeding, and keeping 2 babies warm at the same time is incredibly difficult for her. In the wild, if a mother gorilla ever does have twins, it is very common for only one of them to survive because she simply cannot manage both. So if Angela could not handle both of her babies, the zoo staff would need to step in immediately and start hand-raising one of them. And that is not a simple thing. A baby gorilla raised by humans can miss out on so much. The natural behaviors, the social bonds, the unspoken lessons that only a mother and a troop can teach. It is not ideal, and everyone at the zoo knew it. So the big question hanging over everyone that morning was simple. Would Angela take to both babies, or would one of them be left behind? That question was answered almost immediately. Angela did exactly what the best gorilla mothers do. She took care of both of them. She cleaned them both, nursed them both. She tucked one under each arm and carried them with her everywhere she went. Within just a few hours, the keepers saw both newborns actively drinking her milk. Both were warm, both were responsive. And Angela never showed even a flicker of stress or rejection. She was calm, confident, and steady, just like she always had been. It was honestly a miracle. Not only had their gorilla delivered extremely rare twins, she was also taking care of both of them perfectly on her own, right from the very first moments. The keeper stepped back and let her do exactly what she does best. She did not need any help at all. Angela rises to the occasion and the twins grow up. In the days that followed, the twin gorillas were given their names. The baby boy was called Nkosi and the baby girl was called Naha. Both names followed the traditional naming pattern used for Burgers Zoo gorillas, each starting with that distinctive N prefix. And just like their mother, their older sisters, and the silverback who watched over them all, they were now officially part of the family. When the twins were finally cleared to be seen by the public, they became an instant sensation. Visitors started flocking to the gorilla house just to get a glimpse of them. Photos and videos of the tiny pair curled up against Nigela's chest spread all across the internet. Gorilla fans from all over the world tuned in, watched, and shared the heartwarming news. This was a once-in-a-decade event, and people everywhere wanted to be part of it. Meanwhile, Father Bowie did exactly what a silverback is supposed to do. He stayed close by, kept the troop calm, and quietly stood guard over everyone. He would not have any direct contact with the babies for about the first year and a half of their lives. That is totally normal for gorilla fathers who do not do hands-on baby care. But his presence was absolutely crucial. If any of the other gorillas in the troop got too curious or too rough near the newborns, Bowie would step right in and settle things down immediately. Mother and babies were never in any real danger because the strongest and most respected member of their entire family was always right there watching over everyone. Weeks turned into months, and the twins just kept getting bigger and stronger. Nkosi and Naha both started developing their dark, distinctive gorilla fur. Their little faces became more expressive. They began peeking out from under Nigela's arms with huge, curious eyes, taking in the world around them for the very first time. By the time they were about 3 months old, they could start holding on to their mother on their own, which freed up her arms and made Nigela's daily life so much easier. By 6 months, they were climbing around confidently, sometimes on their mother herself and sometimes on the straw and branches around the enclosure. They played with each other constantly. They wrestled, tumbled, and chased one another the way all young primates do. And through it all, Angela remained exactly what she had always been, calm, patient, and right there beside them every single step of the way. Against every biological odds, she had pulled off something nearly impossible, raising 2 babies at the same time and doing it beautifully. The bigger picture. What this means for conservation. 2013 turned into a historic year for Burgers Zoo. Nkosi and Naha were part of a bigger, more beautiful story that season. The zoo ended up welcoming 5 baby gorillas that whole year, a first in the zoo's entire history. By the end of 2013, Burgers Zoo had become home to the largest western lowland gorilla troop in all of the Netherlands. For a species this endangered, every new baby born is a victory. But having 5 babies in a single year, with 1 pair of them being a set of the rarest twins in all of Europe's zoos, was nothing short of extraordinary. And at the heart of it all was Angela, a gorilla who had come into the world in that very same zoo 20 years earlier, who had grown up, found her place in the troop, and gone on to become one of the most remarkable mothers in the history of the European Endangered Species Program. For her, 2013 was the proudest chapter of her life. She had become the mother of a miracle, 2 tiny new lives that against every biological odd imaginable had arrived safely, had been welcomed with love, and were now growing up strong and healthy right before everyone's eyes. Nkosi and Naha stand as a living reminder of exactly why conservation programs like the EEP matter so much. Every single baby gorilla born brings this critically endangered species one step further from extinction and one step closer to a real future. And to think, it all started with one keeper walking through a door on an ordinary Thursday morning, expecting nothing out of the usual. What he found instead was a moment he would never forget for the rest of his life. A moment that reminded the whole world just how extraordinary nature can truly be. If this story moved you the way it moved us, let us know in the comments below. And if you know someone who loves animals or just needs a beautiful story today, share this with them. Do not forget to like and subscribe for more stories just like this one. Because out there in the world, incredible things are happening every single day, and we will keep bringing them right to you. See you next time.